So today was one of my first like proper full days back at the shop. Back working on the business, and that was really good. Like I was saying in the last couple of days, Beck's obviously been doing really well in general post bub, but being able to actually just get back into the thick of everything has been really cool the last couple of days. And today, all the kids were at daycare and that, and so I just had a really clean run, and it was really cool. It was really good. So there's a few things we're working on in the business, a few things that are coming up, which is great. Um, so yeah, just trying to, I guess, fill the gaps in my knowledge on how to actually action everything effectively. Yeah. I mean, our location's doing great as it is. We've got a lot more on the cards that we want to pursue, and there's a big gap between what I know now. I mean, it's the whole thing is like what got you here won't get you there, and you know the way I've been thinking and the way I've been operating and everything else has got me to this point. But if I want to go to the next point, I have to change how I think and operate and all these sorts of things. So, yeah. So one of the things I really struggle with whenever I'm learning something is that I want to be able to document it and know where it kind of fits inside the business growth scaling journey. And obviously, we've got a fair share of ambition with what we want to do with the business, and I'm conscious that, and for the most part, I've already done this, but I'm conscious that I need to keep replacing myself. So when I see it as like, okay, so as a barista, I replace myself there. As a supervisor, I replace myself, and then as a manager, I've replaced myself, and now I guess my current position is a leader of a very small organization, and one of the things I'm really struggling with to really understand is how to create, I guess, that alignment and synergy, and to be able to, I guess, lead an organization. Yeah, like it's uncharted waters. Yeah. So I mean, I feel like from a strategy point of view, I'm not too bad. And it's funny, I always oscillate from this position where I'm like, yeah, like I feel like I'm doing pretty good, and then I speak to some other people, I'm like, oh, I've got no idea what I'm doing, and just realize that there's just such a vast ocean of things that I don't know, and really how incompetent I am. So it's just, I find it's just oscillating between like, you know, uh, the sense of competence and strength, and then I guess imposter syndrome. Yeah, and it's just this really interesting sort of balance dance happening there. So yeah. Anyway, so it was really good. We've been part of a group called Foodie Coaches since, I want to say, January, and obviously I've not been very active during the phase with Bub. A lot of the things that they said for the very very fundamentals things, I was like, yeah, we're across that, and I watch their I guess fundamental things. It was just around like costings and getting those things nailed. I'm like, yep, like we're pretty onto it with our costings, and yeah. So now we're into the meat, which is really really exciting. One of our biggest goals is to drive down our cost of goods again. What that looks like, I'm not totally sure. Obviously, they've got some strategies and stuff that we're pretty keen to explore. But yeah, so driving down cost of goods, and part of that's waste management, part of that's supply negotiation, part of that's like, yeah. So and at the start of the year, we did that. We went through and we audited literally every single expense that we made in the. It took me a long time in the 2023 financial year, and we just went, okay, was this necessary or not? and it was great. Like we bought ourselves a significant gain in the overheads, which is really cool. And this is the kind of the thing that I'm at now. I'm like, okay, if we want to maintain the continued growth that we've got, then really, like I control the overheads. I pull that up. But when it comes to like, the team's effectiveness with the hours that are worked, and with the, say, like any wastage on any prep that we're doing and stuff like that, like all this, I'm like, okay, that's where the rest of the gains are. Outside of like marketing and all these other things as well, but the team alignment and the synergy and getting everybody aligned and headed in the same direction is really the next thing that I'm like, how do I do this? Speaking of which, this is really cool. A guy named Stuart Cook, I met him, oh God, what am I now, 31? Yeah, probably 12 years ago. Yeah, 12 years ago in Sydney. Jack DeLosa runs an organisation called Entourage. For the most part, business coaching and whatnot. And that was the first time my mentality toward business and everything else really started to pivot, which was exciting. And I had no idea. God, I look back now and I have no idea what I was doing. Absolutely none. And I really hope I get to reflect on these videos and do the same, have the same reaction. But I met this guy named Stuart Cook, and this is kind of before being, obviously, the cafe scene being on our horizons at all. And he was the CEO of Zambreros for quite a while and scaled a lot of what Zambreros is now. Not all of it. I know from some articles that I've read that there's been a bit of contention around that, which to me seems quite petty. But nonetheless, I was able to track him down through my networks, and I've got a call with him tomorrow. And more specifically around the organizational growth and understanding what for the vision I've got with what I want to do with propaganda. How do I do it? Like, what does that look like? So yeah, I'm excited to, I guess, report on that. That'd be cool. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So whenever I'm learning anything now, I'm very conscious that there's no point me learning it because I'm about to learn the lesson, implement the thing, and then I guess either hand over to somewhere else in the team. And I'm just going, well, ultimately they need to understand this knowledge anyway. So I kind of see a big portion of my role to gather information, condense information, or to source, vet, condense, and then deliver information in a way that those who are following our journey by way of like coming up through the ranks in our business are able to learn those skills to then do that for themselves, because when I think around like how in the hell does a place like Gloria Jeans or Zambreros, right? I'm going to exclude Macca's from this because Macca's, for the most part, has a lot of automated equipment, and that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, the human factor. So you got like Gloria Jeans and Coffee Club and all the, maybe like Jamaica Blue, perhaps. I don't know. And they're profitable businesses, and they've scaled to multi-site, but like a lot of sites. Zarafas is another, obviously a good example, yeah. And I'm like, I don't understand how to do it effectively and genuinely have people's buy-in without just throwing money at them. Like, I feel like money is just and I'm not saying that from the point that it's like, oh, the boss is trying to be stingy. No, like, I just feel like it's not one of the worst motivators, but there's a baseline where everybody gets their needs met, and then it's they're able to go on holidays and save money and genuinely in real life, honestly build an actual future for themselves, right? And then above that, I'm going like, to me that's the baseline, okay? Then it's a point of like having clear vision, having purpose, aligned values, trust in your team, trust in the leadership, trust in like whatever it is, and And that I'm talking about, like that's the other part of the magic, you know. So yeah. And the truth is, I don't really even know what question I'm trying to answer, because the question I want to ask is so vague. Like, how do I do it? Fuck. Like, if I could just ask someone, oh, how do I do the thing? Then everyone would be able to do it. And it's this whole, like, and I understand there's a wrestle, and I love the wrestle, and it's in the frustration, and it's when I go digging and I find the answer that now I love this part, and I've learned to love the frustration. And but anyway, I keep digressing. Whenever I'm learning something, either in a book or a workshop, or in this case this coaching program, these guys are hospitality professionals. They understand the business and everything else so intimately. And what I want to do is kind of take the lessons they're learning, put it into like the levels, because I've got this idea of how I want to scale the business, and ultimately it's alongside and working with I want to find people who are passionate, and maybe the rollout and what this looks like will be different, but I want to find people who are passionate about hospitality and the experiences that you can create with hospitality, and then teach them about the business sides of things to be able to actually make that happen. And it doesn't mean that it's like, I've just become a kind of bank for fulfilling dreams that don't work. That's not the goal at all. Because here's what I mean by that. The skill of business is not the skill of the practitioner. And so, like, a barista is absolutely in no way qualified to be a business person. There are skills and understandings that need to be learned. So I'm not just saying that, okay, like, oh, there's a chef with a great passion, and I'm just going to be like, hey, man, you, like, come here. Like, no, like, there's a whole level of education around business that needs to happen. But I'll tell you this for free. Chefs have got to be some of the most dedicated people I've ever seen in my entire life. And do I think that they've got the ability to be able to learn? Absolutely. 100%. They are. Talk about passion. Fucking hell. They're a different breed, eh? Chefs are a different breed. And I married one, so I should know. But yeah. Anyway. So, yeah. And it doesn't mean that propaganda goes by the wayside whatsoever. I still think propaganda has an incredible good market fit, and I'm looking forward to scaling that. But in tandem with that, the thing I love about hospitality is hospitality is the art on the proverbial walls of society that heavy industry has built. And that, I feel like society is underserved with our arts, and like, food makes you feel things, man. It's an experience, and you feel and you experience things, and just like cinema, and just like it stimulates the senses, and it's those things is what makes life worthwhile. Just like the experience of love and the experience of serenity, like, it's a stimulation, or in some instances lack thereof, of the senses. But it's those things, like, you pay your bills to go and experience things, and to stimulate and have those experiences. And without taking the people that have the passion for hospitality to create those experiences for people or groups or whatever, I just go like, society is incredibly lacking. And unfortunately, what I do see in WA, and maybe the rest of Australia is not like this, but what I do see in WA is that so much talent gets swept up into out of necessity, because typically hospitality is a very low paying industry. And I think part of that is that the people who are passionate about food don't understand business. And there needs to be a bridge between the two. But I see all these people with so much talent, by necessity, because life demands it eventually, that you have to be able to continue to pay your bills, and eventually we all realize, man, we're going to be 70 at one point and we better have money behind us. And the collective, the entire collective, the community, locally, broader, everyone suffers for it. So yeah. Anyway, so what I'm wanting to do is document, like, okay, like at this level, okay, you want to start a business, you want to start a new location. If it's us, we wanting to expand the business. What analysis do you need to do? What do you need to have in place? What questions do you need to ask? What tools do you need? How do you calculate that? How do you analyze that? How do you whatever? And be able to start having this framework that I can start taking people who don't know anything about business and be like, okay, we're starting at this point. Ask these questions. Let's do this together. Rather than me just be like, hey, this is what you're doing. Plonk. So yeah. So anyway, so that was this morning, and just starting to kind of build out that framework and learn lessons. And I got an admin girl, and again, this is the other thing as well. I'm just like, I'm not going to redo our costings. I understand that it's important. Not to say it's a waste of my time. My time is definitely better spent somewhere else. So I love our admin chick, Charlene. If ever you listen to this, Charlene, I love you. You're an absolute godsend. And even just like, yeah, our story of how we got connected was super, super cool too. And we've been working with each other for a very long time now. And so I said to Charlene, I was like, hey, listen, can you do me a favor? Like, watch this video. Here's the stuff. Can you tackle it? And she spent all day redoing our cost of goods, making sure that everything's above board. And I was like, I love that woman. She's so diligent. I just remembered that I need to finish reviewing that. So yeah, tackled that, and then I just started like mapping stuff out in this framework again, just kind of building out a little bit more, and it's going to be a live document. I'm conscious that it's not going to be to think that I'm going to be able to have this nailed first time around is a fool's errand. But I am conscious that it's going to be something that adapts. So, or evolves is probably a better way to put it. Okay, so I did a bit of Googling as well because I want to put some maths around my weight loss just so that I know what I need to do rather than just like, go and punch weight and everything else. So I worked out that I have to lose 154,000 calories to be able to reach weight. And the conclusion I came to there was that from what I was able to Google, I know Google's not the best, but it's better than nothing, 7,700 calories to a kilo of fat. Hang on a second. I thought it was one of the kids or Bec or someone calling for me. Oh, anyway. Yeah, and so what I'm going to eat for the next little while is chicken, rice, and lamb. And I am not complaining. That's so good. So and going for those targets, and I know that at some point I'm going to be like, micronutrient deficient, and I'm going to have to add stuff in, and I intend on adding things in. Here's my reason. The same reason why I started with a 7-day fast was because to just kickstart the act of discipline, where it's just like, what, I'm hungry and that's fine, and I'm saying no, and just like that, for the rest of the time until I hit my my 85 kilos, is that I'm going to be limiting my diet to chicken, lamb, and rice, which is like, it's really not that bad, but to be able to then have the what do you call it? What's the word? Not the discretion. Discretion fits, but discrimination. To have the discrimination to say, well, this is what I'm eating, and because I'm only eating this, I'm therefore not eating any of this. So that is what I am excited about, is building the habit of oh my god, I literally just had it. Whatever. Discretion. I'm just going to run with that. building the habit of discretion, and being intentional. And then when I get to target weight, then I'll start tracking all this other stuff and adding it in. So I've loosely looked at the macros and stuff in the chicken and chicken, lamb, and rice, and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, that's gonna be fine. So I'm happy with that, and it should take me. Here we go, going on record, 20 weeks. 20 weeks from 16th of April. So let's have a look at that. 20 weeks from 16th of April is September 2024, just in time for Bec's birthday. Not bad. Okay, so that'd be cool. So I've got 20 weeks from today to hit target weight. And yeah, so I did jump on the phone with. I have a small interest in another business with a friend of mine, and I was on the phone to him, and he's pretty well versed in the fitness space, and I was chatting with him around around my plan, and yeah, and one thing he said, he's like, mate, listen, incorporate some honey and some fruit and all these sorts of things. So, yeah. So at the end of my diet, then the thing is, I'm very conscious that diets people bounce back from. I feel as though I'm not going to do that, and I'm sure everybody says the same thing. But my reason for saying so is that I feel like there's been a fundamental mindset shift, rather than this just being a fad or being like a New Year's thing. That there's actually been like a pretty serious pivot in how I look at my relationship with health and food and exercise. We'll see. But the reason I say that is I don't want to spend, like, it's not something I want to do until I reach weight. Like, I want to maintain these habits like forever, really, and to be very discriminating. Hey, there it is. Very discriminating with what I do and don't eat, and being totally cool with that. I'm totally cool with it, and yeah, no, it's good. So yeah, so anyway, so that was the first half of my day. Then I organised, I've got these two girls, they work for us. Man, I love them, mate. They're so good. And I hadn't seen them in ages, so I flicked them a message a little while ago. I was like, hey girls, listen, I haven't seen you in ages, let's go catch up for lunch. So that was really cool. So I headed to Nando's, and Carter, who's our manager, and Odelia, she manages the weekends with us, and they were rocking up at the exact same time, completely unplanned. So that was kind of cool to catch up with all, four people in our team that I haven't seen in a little while. It's been really cool. So, and we're just talking about life, and very briefly, I filled them in on the plans with the business and what we're wanting to do, and I mentioned to them how we've got a big team meeting on in about 3 weeks, and we're going to. The intention is to run to show everyone how we're going to be running the business, i.e., open book management from there on, and and these are some of our more key people, and so I'm pretty candid with them around the plans, and they really know a lot of what's going on anyway. So it was really cool. So so I came back and kept working on that I guess structure, business implementation structure, or whatever you want to call it. And while that was happening, Beck was napping, and so after that, she went and picked up the kids from school, and so sweet. I mean, I know that after the kids get back, my ability to work is for the most part gone, and so Lexi, she's so sweet. Oh, God, this morning before she went to school, she came in and she's like, "Hey, Dad, what's your favorite color?" I was like, "Oh, I like blue." She's like, "Okay." 2 seconds later, she doesn't even finish closing the door. She's like, "Dad, what do you like to do?" I was like, "Babe, I really like being with you guys. I like making crafts with you guys. Like, I really enjoy that." Okay. I didn't hear anything about it until she came home from school. She goes and grabs it. She brings Beck in. She says to me, she was like, she's like, oh, mum, dad, can you guys come here? And I had Sterling on my chest because he was struggling to sleep and he had fallen asleep. So the girls came into the office. Lexi had found these like little. Sorry, Lexi had found these little like little boxes from some wardrobe hooks. It's just the tiny little ones. Check this out. She this is in it. Oh, this one right here. That little robe hook. How funny is that? Right, we did our we had to redo our bathroom the start of the year, so this is remnants of that. And in that, she put this. Surely you can see that. There you go. It says, "I love you, Dad." And then inside, there's a sticker, and that's about it. That's it, really. So both Bec and I got one of these, and she packed this little like slinky toy thing, and what else did I get? Got a little rock from her rock collection that she's been collecting, and these my girls love these gems. They're just like poxy plastic pieces of shit, but they love it. And whatever. There you go. That's in focus now. And she's so sweet. She like fully went out of her way to make us these gifts, and you know what? I was gonna say I don't deserve it, but I don't think self-deprecation in this sense at all is healthy or achieves anything meaningful. You know what? I will say that I do deserve it. I do think that. And I don't think it's egotistical. I think that I've spent a lot of time in the last few years working on parts of me and things about me that I don't like. And as I've grown and come to peace with things and accepted things and strengthened things and let go of things and whatever, I've seen Bec and I've seen my kids and I've seen them flourish in the process. And not to say that it is because of the work I've done, but I know that that's a very strong contributing factor. And I know that especially in our household, and I don't know if other households are the same, but I know in our household especially that how I show up and how I both Bec and the kids, they follow my lead, positively and negatively. And I know that I've over the last few years been making very intentional positive growth, and it's reflected in them, even in my children. So yeah, I love those moments. Yeah, so we after that we loaded the kids up. The kids do swimming and squash, so I went and picked up Eliza from daycare, and she was walking out with Bec, and she kind of stopped. So she was holding a pillow. She was walking out with Bec, and she stopped and saw me in the driver's seat, and Bec was saying, I can't remember exactly what she did, but for the most part, the crux of it was she realised that I was in the car, and she got really excited that I was in the car too. So it was really, really sweet. Took the kids swimming, came home, got the kids ready, went to squash. Tilly wasn't so keen on it anymore. Yeah. I'm just looking at this note here and I can't make sense of it. I'm sure it made sense in the moment, but I can't work it out. Anyway, so we got home. The kids had fun. Yeah, we sat up in. We've got like a loft in their playroom that they sit up and read books from time to time. So we went up there and read our bedtime books tonight. And I was mucking around. I made a joke, and the kids have been pulling me up for lying recently, and it's hard because I'm like, well, how do I explain to them that you can make a joke and it's okay? It's obviously something completely absurd. But they keep pulling me up on it. I'm like, oh, like it's kind of good, but man, like how do I? Yeah. Anyway, so we trimmed Sterling's hair because he looks like Friar Tuck, the poor bugger. He's like thick around the outside and pale on top, and 5 weeks we're like, oh, we need to even this out. So Beck took the charge and did that, and then Lexi was saying to me, she's like, oh, I wanted to feel his hair, I was like, nah, babe, like it's bedtime. And I was like, I'm going to put it in the bin. She's like, what are you going to put in the bin? Beck's like, Sterling. I was like, yeah, I'm going to put Sterling in the bin. She's like, Dad, you lied. I was like, okay, it's a joke. It's a joke. No, you lied. All right, whatever, sure thing. There's this real sense of justice coming through at the moment, which is great. This is a good one to end on. That book, Fear and Trembling, that I mentioned Beck passed me in accident, which just so happened to be one of probably the best book I could have read at the moment. On the back of that meeting I had with that businessman, who I kind of see as a bit of a mentor of sorts. Again, this has kind of been the prevailing issue that I have with God, is surrendering my entire life, including the possibility of incredible negative outcome. So in Fear and Trembling, Soren Kierkegaard, he died in 1855. He wrestles with this issue of God promising Abraham a whole lineage and nations and all that sort of stuff, and then telling him to go kill at like, he had his kid at like 90 or whatever, and telling him to go kill the very, very promise that God made. And everybody lauds Abraham like, oh, like, look at him and he's so faithful and all that sort of stuff. And the argument that he makes, this is something that I've bought into for a long time. The argument that Soren Kierkegaard makes in this is, he says, like, if let's just say that there's a preacher and there's and a preacher's preaching this and about Abraham's faithfulness, and then someone who's very lacking in intellect goes home and kills his own son because he thinks that it's, in modern day, thinks that that's an act of faith, right? That same preacher would berate him and call him a senseless murderer and all these, and probably clinically insane and whatever. So how is it that what Abraham did was like awe-inspiring and had faith, whereas what these other people could possibly do, if we were to mimic what Abraham did, would be called clinically insane? Like, what's the difference? And what he talks about is that there's the first thing is, what does he call, infinite resignation, I think, is the term that he used. But it's something like that, where he's effectively talking about how the first step, like the precursor to faith, the act of faith, is surrendering. I'm going to use my terminology on this, right? Is like surrendering to what's been asked of you to do. Firstly. Secondly, then the act of faith is holding on to the absurdity between the paradox. And I'll explain what I mean. The absurdity of the paradox in Abraham's story is that he was promised to be a father of nations, and he didn't get the kid until he was 90. So already that's a miracle, right? Then, and for the pragmatists among us, yes, I understand that you might be interpreting it as metaphorical, but for the argument's sake and for the sake of the story, let's call it literal. Okay, so he had his kid well before, well after he should have physically been able to. Then God goes and tells him that he has to go murder his own very promise. And so here you've got this paradox, because there's a God that's all love telling you to go commit a crime, effectively, right? To murder the very gift that he promised you about. And it's paradoxical. It just doesn't make sense. And what he talks about is that for Abraham to have faith to do so, the easiest thing to do, like if it was you and me, the easiest thing to do would be to build a level of hate or callousness or something like that in your heart, so that it was easy to do the terrible thing. But there's no evidence of that in the Abrahamic story, where because the moment that he sees the ram and like he embraces his son, and there's this joy and this overwhelming joy, and that never left. So that tells you that there was no callousness. There was no like, it was the moment that he realized it was good. Whew, relief. And so what he's saying is that the act of faith is really when you hold on to the absurdity between the paradox. And the paradox in this case was that God is love, and yet he's taking away the promise that he promised you. And somewhere between that, faith makes things happen, which is the absurdity that you hang on to in between the paradox. So that's about what I've taken out of the book so far. So far, so good. Man. All the old books are good, man. Yeah, Marcus Aurelius. Yeah, what's the other one? Aldo Leopold, Think Like a Mountain. Another great one. All the old books, man. That's where it's at. So yeah, I'll keep you guys up to date with that. But I'm certainly wanting to reconcile this mistrust that I have with surrendering the outcome of my life ultimately. Yeah, that's that. See you tomorrow.